Welcome to the 700 Club. Today is March 22nd, and it's my father's birthday. And this is the first birthday in my life I'm celebrating for him where he's not here. About a year ago, 3 months, December of 2022, he kind of surprised me. I was visiting him, and he said, let's have a birthday party. And typically, we celebrate his birthday every 5 years, but he was going to be 93, and so he wanted a birthday party. I think he knew what was coming, and I also think he wanted it. He really missed my mother, and so he wanted to celebrate his birthday. So in typical Robertson fashion, he wanted the Oak Ridge Boys to come, and during their concert a year ago, he asked for a special request because they said, "Sir, it's your birthday. Would you like us to sing any song?" And he shouted out, "Could you sing Elvira?" And so they sang Elvira to celebrate his birthday. So today, if you could say an Papa wow, Mau Mau, if I got that right, Papa Mau Mau, in honor of him, that would be wonderful. And I would certainly rejoice with you. Solomon wrote a proverb. It's in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 7. The memory of the righteous is a blessing. And in Israel today, they tell each other in memory of their departed ones, may his memory be a blessing. So anyone that you've lost in your family, think of them today, and may that memory be a blessing for you. Well, turning to Israel, Israel will fight through to victory against Hamas, even if the whole world turns against it, including the United States. That's the promise from a top Israeli government official.
That pledge comes as the United Nations is set to vote today on a resolution sponsored by the United States. It calls for a ceasefire in the war in Gaza. Paul Strand has the story from Jerusalem.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is making it clear ahead of the UN vote that a ceasefire and hostage deal is a top concern for the U.S.
There's a clear consensus around a number of shared priorities. First, the need for an immediate, sustained ceasefire with the release of hostages.
While there could be a pause in the war, the feelings of hostility toward Israel remain, as new polling shows most Palestinians are still on the side of Hamas. 71% of Palestinians in Gaza and Judea and Samaria, known as the West Bank, say Hamas made the right decision to launch the attacks against Israel on October 7th. 94% think Israel has committed war crimes during the current fighting, but 91% do not think Hamas did. In fact, 93% say Hamas did not commit the atrocities seen in the videos of October 7th. But among Palestinians who have seen those videos, 17% believe Hamas fighters did commit atrocities against civilians. As the fighting continues on the ground in Gaza, Israel says it captured some 650 suspected terrorists in the military operation at the Shifa hospital this week, including top Hamas officials.
Many Hamas terrorist operatives and senior ones have been hiding in the hospital. And also Islamic Jihad group has been hiding in this hospital.
And Israel says it carried out the operation without any harm to civilians, even those working in the hospital.
Civilians, doctors, medic teams, none have been hurt.
And while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made clear Israel must launch an assault on the last Hamas stronghold in the city of Rafah in Gaza, Secretary of State Blinken made it clear before arriving in Israel today the U.S. does not support such an invasion.
A major military operation in Rafah would be a mistake, something we don't support, and it's also not necessary to deal with Hamas, which is necessary. We're going to have an opportunity next week to share in detail that view with our Israeli counterparts and to lay out our views on how to deal with the problem differently.
But Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer says Israel will go into Rafah no matter who opposes it.
Even if the entire world turns on Israel, including the United States, we're going to fight.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And they should fight. Hamas has to end. They can't live. You can't live in Israel under the threat that Hamas has said. I call it an Islamic death cult. And they have said they will repeat October 7 again and again and again and again until Israel doesn't exist anymore. Hamas cannot stay in control of the government of Gaza. If Israel doesn't move forward here and completely eliminate them, then they're going to be under threat for years to come. That can't happen. It should never happen. Listen hard to the surveys of the Palestinians where they're living in denial of what happened on October 7th. They're also living in denial of what's happening now. To take civilians and hold them as hostages is a war crime. To use hospitals and mosques and churches and residential homes as cover for your military operations, that again is a war crime. These aren't being talked about in the news media, certainly not being talked about in the Palestinian territories, but we need to talk about it, and we need to let our voice be heard. So please today, call your representative in Congress, call your senator, let them know, let them know how you feel and how you want them to support Israel. Israel is in a battle for its existence, and they need to know the United States of America is standing strong with them. There's a lot of politics going on. There's a lot of attempts to try to appeal to voters in Michigan, Muslim voters in Michigan. All of these things are happening. In that, we need to let our voice be heard. So let's put that number back on the screen. Call 202-224-3121. Now's the time to say we stand with Israel. We need to support Israel. We need to be with them in their time of need. I'm looking for you to vote for packages to help Israel in this conflict. Do it now. Again, let's get this number up. I want to say it again, 202-224-3121. In other news, more Americans are being airlifted out of Haiti as the gang violence there intensifies, and it's wonderful that the U.S. government's finally getting engaged to rescue Americans. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN Newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, a spokesperson told The Voice of America the U.S. government evacuated more than 90 Americans out of the capital of Haiti Thursday, but hundreds are still trapped in the country. Wednesday, the Florida Department of Emergency Management chartered a plane that evacuated 14 Florida residents, including 8 children. More than 300 Floridians are still in Haiti. Florida's Emergency Management Division is working on getting them out despite bureaucratic obstacles from the federal government and safety threats in Haiti. Thousands of orphans are among those stranded in Haiti, and the U.S. Embassy is now closed, but a ministry is working to bring more than 100 of them to this country. CBN's Jenna Browder takes a look at this uphill battle.
Turmoil in Haiti. The capital city of Port-au-Prince reeling from gang warfare, with life for locals growing more dangerous by the day. Among the most vulnerable, Haiti's orphans. Love Him, Love Them is one ministry on the ground trying to help.
We have 6 different locations. We have schools, orphanages, churches. We opened a hospital in the middle of a global pandemic, and it's unbelievable. We're responsible for over 5,000 children.
Founder Linda Gunter says they have dozens of children ready to come to the U.S.
We have 101 children who have already been matched. They have adoptive families here in the United States. The families here in the U.S. already know the kids already know the families. And yet, because of what's happened in the last 2 weeks, we can't get them out. We can't get them out.
The problem is paperwork.
We have paid, played by the rules, for lack of a better term, done everything exactly the way we're supposed to do. And yet we can't get that final piece of paper to get out. Why can't we get it? They closed the embassy. So we can't get into the embassy to get that final stamp.
She's asking anyone who will to sign a petition with the National Council for Adoption. And if you want to take it even a step further, you can write to the U.S. State Department and your congressman here in Washington. The goal is to get the government's attention and persuade it to take action on behalf of these children.
We just need to make some noise. We need to make some noise.
Jenna Browder, CBN News.
If you'd like to sign the petition or reach out to the State Department, we've got information included in this story on our website. You can find it by visiting cbnnews.com. Turning now to a major political issue. Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year, pro-choice advocates across the country have been hard at work trying to legalize abortion in states that banned it after the court's decision. Pro-life groups are pushing back. CBN contributing correspondent Paul Petit takes a closer look at what they're up against.
Decline to sign is the theme of Arkansas pro-life advocates as they fight to keep a state abortion ban in place.
Arkansas is the most pro-life state in the union. The only reason that a woman could get an abortion in the state of Arkansas is for a medical emergency.
The goal of these rallies, keep voters from signing to add an amendment initiative to the November ballot. The amendment aims to enshrine abortion access in the state constitution. Arkansas was one of 13 states with a trigger law, which banned abortion after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June. The Dobbs ruling allows states to decide. So far, abortion advocates have seen success in 6 states to make abortion legal again through the voting process. In 2024, there are efforts in as many as 13.
The key thing to know about these ballot initiatives all across the country is that they permanently change state constitutions. Your elected officials cannot go back and reverse the effects of these abortion amendments should they make it into your state constitution.
90,000 signatures must be gathered by July 5th to get the measure on the Arkansas November ballot. Local abortion advocates are confident they'll reach that number.
We have momentum on our side. So Ohio, Kansas, Kentucky with the governor's race, Michigan, all of these states give us hope that through the direct action of people, we can restore some access for abortion services in this state. This is a great amendment for people who have nuanced views or might identify as more in the middle.
According to Arkansas pro-life groups, what abortion advocates are not telling people at these signature drives is how their efforts, if successful, will open the floodgates to abortion on demand at places like this and throughout Arkansas.
It's an extremely deceptive amendment.
They want abortion legal for any reason up to 18 weeks, which is basically 20 weeks for the baby. And then after that, it would be for, in the exception of rape, incest, or the health of the mother. And health can be defined as I'm feeling depressed. And the definition of health is by the abortionist.
How do you think that women or any voter who believes that abortion should be allowed if the mother's life at risk, how do you think they would respond if they knew the real language?
If they knew that this law will make null and void all of the pro-life laws in the state of Arkansas. That means no parental consent for minors. That means no health inspections on the abortion centers. If they knew the full extent, the extreme nature of this amendment, they would be against it.
In an effort to keep the measure off the ballot, Arkansas pro-life organizations, churches, legislators, and citizens are joining forces to educate and mobilize.
In a matter of a week and a half, members from the Arkansas Coalition for Life, or NWA Coalition for Life, had gone to over 300 churches in the Northwest Arkansas area. And so we've taken that strategy and we've started doing it all across the state.
Pro-life advocates say they'll continue the fight to ensure abortion access that voters approved in other states doesn't happen in Arkansas.
It's so important that we win. It is a life or death situation.
In Arkansas, Paul Petit, CBN News.
That battle in Arkansas is likely what we're going to see play out in state after state across the country. Gordon?
Yes, and welcome to messy democracy. And this is the consequence of Roe v. Wade being overturned. I obviously applaud that. I'm pro-life. But now we're into how does each state determine their laws? And so it's up to us in the pro-life community to get involved and, more importantly, stay involved. Don't think that the battle's been won. It hasn't. We're now into the messy part of it, which is how our states are going to determine their laws on abortion. But I would encourage you to stay involved even after the legislation, because we need a culture that supports mothers. We need a culture that supports children. If you're facing economic uncertainty because you're pregnant, well, we need to come alongside you and say, no, there's no uncertainty here. We're here for you. We want to help you. We want to encourage life, and we want to support life. So this is more than just legislation. It's more than just legal battles. It's a battle for mothers, and how can we help them as a culture and as a society? So be dedicated to life, and not just for short-term bursts, but depending on constitutional amendments or current legislation. Get involved. There are plenty of crisis pregnancy centers. There are plenty of areas where you can get involved financially. You can volunteer your time. But most importantly, mothers in America need to know we stand with them, and we're with them all the way through.